team offensively is very Josh Allen-centric. Now, it works a lot of the times. But are you a little concerned with that they can get predictable on offense? And they kind of, people know they're going to throw the ball a lot. Do you worry a little bit about their predictability on offense?
I'll tell you what, over the last month or so of the season, they've gotten this run game going. On the season, they've gotten up to top 5 in the NFL, top 6 in the NFL in running backs yards per carry. Now, they don't run it a ton, but they are the only team in the NFL to run for over 100 yards in each game this season. So, yes, there is a predictability factor, and that does hurt the offensive line at times when the offensive line and the defensive line for the other team know that it's a pass a majority of the time. They can pin their ears back and attack the quarterback. But that being said, this is a team that they believe, and I do as well, that if the weather dictates that you have to run the football, that they can get it done.
Listen, Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs are great. Gabriel Davis sort of feels like he's vanished a little bit. Do you worry they're a little Stephon Diggs-centric on the perimeter? You know, that gives defenses opportunities to double and bracket. Do you worry about that a little?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that you see John Brown and Cole Beasley coming back to Buffalo for a second reunion tour, and that's because they're not getting the production from Gabe Davis that they thought they would this year. In the slot, Jamison Crowder, who's brought in from the Jets last year, he gets hurt early in the season. Now he's back in his 21-day window's open, but he's not going to play this week. And so part of the reason that you see that Cole Beasley and John Brown are back is because they're looking for more answers outside. And that's where you've seen the running backs get involved in the pass game as well, because the ball's getting spread around. The last few games, 8-9 receivers or pass catchers per game, because they're looking for that number 2 option.
Yeah, no, that's true. Now, you're going to play in Atlanta. I think Atlanta does big events about as well as any city in this country. They've got it dialed in, public transportation, world-class airport, hotels, restaurants. They do it great. But there are those that don't love the choice. In Buffalo, the team you know well, the culture, is there a feeling that, hey, you're taking away one of our advantages, we're a cold weather team?
Not necessarily. I mean, we just talked about it. This team is built to throw the football. So you put them in a dome, and they're in great shape. I know Indianapolis was talked about early. That's somewhat of a midpoint between Kansas City and Buffalo if they were going to play in the AFC Championship game, and they're hosting a volleyball tournament. It reminds me a little bit in the summertime when I commit to things way out, and then you get a way better offer, and you got to figure out a way to get out of it. They committed to a volleyball tournament, not even at Lucas Oil, but occupying so many of their hotel rooms that they couldn't host. Detroit is doing something with their field. That was another logical destination. But Atlanta, that city, that economy doesn't necessarily need another big-time event to come through, but they are one heck of a host. I was down there most recently probably for that Louisville National Championship that it now exists again.
Sean McDermott has had to navigate a highly traumatic and emotional locker room. You know Sean very, very well. Why was he so equipped to handle it the way he did?
I've said it many times. Sean's the most consistent person I've ever been around in my entire life. And so the relationship that he's built in the organization with everyone involved, including the players, allowed him to lead through this circumstance, which was extreme low emotions to then extreme high emotions to where, you're entering a football game with this great news of DeMar being neurologically excellent, full lung function, but now you want to play and win for DeMar, and you have all that emotion. Sean is the steadying presence and always has been. Each and every season is a roller coaster ride in itself. This season, having some of the highest highs and lowest lows with all of what Western New York has been through since last May with the racially motivated mass shooting. And Sean has been the perfect person to navigate them through it all.
So you're a Bills radio analyst. You've been in the chair for every game. And I'll give you the underdogs this weekend. I'll take the Bills game out. The Seahawks are an underdog. The Jags are an underdog. The Giants are. The Ravens are. The Buccaneers. Go back to all the teams you've seen. Is there a live underdog this weekend? Is there a team in this league that you've sat in your Bills chair, one of these teams you've watched and thought, boy, that would be a scary first-round playoff team?
I don't know about any of those that the Bills have played this year. If I'm looking at the matchups, I know that 5-4 matchup is generally where you'll see some upsets. Jacksonville's been playing really good ball.
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence just adds to an incredible AFC cast of quarterbacks. And, from the outside looking in, everyone's in love with Justin Herbert. Everyone knows the star power that LA has, but it would not surprise me to see Jacksonville get that win.
Yeah, it is. When you look at the AFC, of course, with the Bills, you see a lot of the AFC. Miami was a handful early in the season. Now they're on a third quarterback, not so much. What's going to be the special sauce? I've said sometimes I compare them to heavyweight fights. I don't think Cincinnati has the knockout punch of Buffalo, but they've got a better jab. Like Buffalo sometimes worries me. Red zone, Josh Moore mistakes. What is the sense with Josh Allen's increase in red zone turnovers? What is the feeling? Is it a Brian Daboll? Is it a predictability passing? How do you view that?
I think at times early on it was pressing. It was trying to make plays that weren't there, that we haven't seen Josh do in a long time. Last week he gets hit while he's throwing and makes a play in the red zone that you just can't have. And I think it's part of it's pressing. You're just trying to make a play. You're trying to live up to the hype. And Josh wants to do everything for this team. That's why he throws his body around like he does. And making those decisions in the playoffs are likely, let's assume the Bills get through the Dolphins this week. You play the Bengals and you play the Chiefs. Those are three fairly even matched teams. With fairly evenly matched teams, if you show me after the game the red zone touchdown percentage and the turnover differerential, and you're likely going to see the winner. And so when it comes to red zone turnovers, that's crushing you in both departments.
Who do the Bills match up? I'll reverse it. Who scares you more? Bills Kansas City or Bills Cincinnati? When you look at their personnel, you know it well. If you could say, okay, we'll play these guys instead of those guys. Bengals Chiefs, what's a tougher matchup in your opinion? Not to look too far ahead for Buffalo.
I would honestly say Cincinnati, and it's because of the star power at receiver. Now, with Kansas City, you have Travis Kelce, but then the guys on the outside, they're all great players. They're good players in this league. But when you have the star power at receiver that the Bengals have in Chase, Higgins, and then Boyd in the slot, those are matchup nightmares on the outside. Bills have traditionally this year have struggled against teams at number one receiver. When a team has a bona fide number one receiver, the Bills have struggled. Now, Tre'Davious White is coming back.
Yes.
He's further along off of his comeback from the ACL. So he is playing better ball, and the Bills are hoping through the playoffs that'll be a remedy for that situation. But to me, it would be the Bengals. And Kansas City may say the same thing about Cincinnati, considering they've lost the last two times they played them.
You were in the stadium when Hines takes the opening kickoff back. I was just watching on TV with Jim Nantz and Romo. In your life of football, had you ever experienced anything like it?
I haven't. I mean, it was the full buildup of the week. It was being in the stadium in Cincinnati, where I'm originally from, and watching Paycorp Stadium be louder than I've ever heard it before, to then being just silent in the emotion and the terror and the shakiness of the entire situation, leading to the week of what ends up being a celebration. And they honor the trainers pregame, and they wanted them to run out of the tunnel potentially. And they said, look, we got to work. And so they just show a video, which just shows the selflessness of the trainers that were involved in the Damar Hamlin situation. But then for Hines to run back his first kickoff return touchdown of his career, to run that opening kickoff back, to see the tears streaming down Sean McDermott's face, to see Josh Allen's face. I couldn't look down at the monitor calling the game, or I would have gotten emotional myself. I've never seen anything like it. And it was the culmination of just a very traumatic week that turned into a celebration.
Eric Wood, Bills Radio, former Pro Bowler, heavy favorites against kind of a banged up quarterback situation for Miami. They should be heavy favorites. They are heavy favorites. And as always, the Bills have done such a good job over the last couple of weeks. What a class organization and their fans. And tip of the cap to the Bengals fans, by the way, during the Hamlin crisis, how classy they were and how they handled it. Just made me feel good about the National Football League. It's hard not to root for Buffalo, I'll tell you that. Good seeing you, Eric.
Yeah, always, Colin.
Yeah.